Hi guys, this is Donna with Love Rocks, and we're back with one more rock for the Patriotic series that we did this year for the 4th of July. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy watching these videos. If you want to be in the drawing, you have to subscribe and leave a comment underneath the video. If you've already subscribed, I want to thank you so much for continuing to support my channel. I love doing this, and I hope that everybody gets something out of it, even if it's just a little bit of enjoyment of watching someone else paint. So let's get started. Like I said, this will be the last one this year for this particular series, and I wanted to do something simple, something that was really pretty, something that anybody can do, and definitely a rock that you can do several of at one time and use for hiding rocks. These turn out really nice for hiding. So started off with painting the rock white. Now you're going to have so many light colors there in the background that I suggest even on a light colored rock that you put in the white. Let that dry. You're going to need it to dry for at least 30 minutes. It's summertime, so that doesn't seem to take very long to get that first layer to dry. Then we're going to put in some ink spot blue. We're going to put it over there on the left-hand side, like the top of the flag. And then you're going to kind of blend it towards that white. Now, you can see how I'm blending it. I'm using a really large brush with a little bit of watered down white color. And then if I get it too light, I go back in with some darker blue. If I get it too dark, I go back in with some more white. You can blend however you're used to blending. This just makes it fast and easy, and I love that really wide bristled brush for doing things like this. Like several of the rocks that we've done lately, just keep in mind that there are going to be several layers on this rock. So anytime you can let it dry in between layers, I would suggest you do it. I used Cardinal red on this one for the stripes. So you'll see I put it in, and then you're just going to kind of fade it with the white. You're going to have to play with this a little bit by putting in the stripe of red, the stripe of white, going back and forth until you get that desired effect. I didn't want it to blend too much. I wanted it to actually look like stripes. So go back and forth until you get it to blend the way you like it. And you don't have to use the same exact technique. I just want to give you another perspective, another way of doing it if this isn't the way that you do it. I did several of these rocks, and I played with some different sizes and some different shapes of brushes, and this one seemed to be the easiest. But use what you have. Don't go out buying some extra supplies just to do one rock. Use what you have and just kind of play with it. And you'll see I come back and forth with it, putting in light, putting in dark, because I just wanted it to look like it's kind of floating across the sky. And you can take your time with this, and you can make it as dark as you want or as light. Specifically, I tried to keep that left-hand side the darkest, and then tried to keep the right-hand side kind of the lightest. So as you play with this, go back and forth. You can let it dry if you're starting to feel like you have too much paint on there because you're trying to get a desired effect and you're not quite getting the effect you want. You can let it dry and then go back in again and start painting. That is a great way to change it out and get what you're looking for. Now I did take some black to put along that edge because we're going to put some trees there, and then we're going to put some trees down over on the right hand side. I brought in a little bit of blue. I wanted to get that blue in there, but then it started getting way too dark, and this is summertime. It's a bright sky. I wanted to lighten up that forefront a little bit. So I brought in some white, some more white, and just kind of, again, don't put too much thought into this. Continue to play with it a little bit, put in a little light, put in a little dark in the places that you like, and then stand back and look at it, and continue to go back and forth until you get it the way you want. And I will also tell you that the more times you do this, the easier it gets. So if you're going to do, say, 10 of these rocks, it gets very easy once you get into several of them, because you remember how you got those darks and lights and how you liked them. Also remember that once you start putting in the stars and the trees and the front ground, it really starts to take shape. So get that sky in there the best you can, and then move forward. I did try to make some of those stars kind of twinkle stars, and I didn't like the way it looked, so I just kind of went over it with some blue. But I didn't want them to be spots. And so I just took my dotting tool and kind of jiggled it across those dots so it would blur them a little bit. And I'm hoping that you're starting to see the look of this, and how it can start taking shape very quickly. Now, to do the trees, I always put in the trunk first. You don't want to put in 2 trees or 4 trees. You want to keep it at an odd number. So I put 3 trees on each side. You also don't want to put them straight across from each other. You want them to be kind of off balance a little bit. So you put it in the trunks, and then you start just barely skipping the tip of your brush across it. I started off with black. It is summertime, and we're trying to make this a little bit lighter. So then I added in some green. There it is. And we're going to go back and we're going to kind of do the same exact thing over the top of it. Skip it along to look like some more green. And then we're going to go back in with a little bit of white and green that I've mixed together to have some highlights. And you may have to do that on these trees 2 or 3 times to get the desired effect. So what happens is you don't want to just put a blob of black in there and then throw the green on top of that and then throw the white on top of that. You want to try to put those little areas so that you can see that there's something behind it. Now you are going to cover up enough of that tree that a lot of it you're not going to be able to see through, but there'll be limbs that you can see the blue through, that you can see the red and white through, and that's what you're trying to get. You don't want to be able to see through the whole tree, but you do want to be able to see through some of those outside limbs on those trees that you can see there's something behind it. And so those are the layers you're going to do. And I always start with the dark and then move to the light, but then I do go back in, and I once I get that light color in there, and I put a little more dark in there. And it gives you that depth to the tree, because you know that there's going to be light limbs and dark limbs, and the sun's going to be going down behind it. So there's going to be some areas that's going to have a little bit of reflection and some areas that's not. And since those trees are a little farther than the ones that are on the right, the ones on the right are going to be a little more detailed and a little lighter colored. They're closer to you. You can see them a little bit better. So you're going to start back with the trunk. You're going to start with your dark color, which is going to be your black, and you're just going to kind of skip it back and forth in the shape of a pine tree. Then we're going to go in and hit it with that green again. And then you're going to mix that green with a little bit of white just to have one more color, several hues lighter. I would say it's probably close to 2 or 3 hues lighter. And then you're going to go back in and hit it again. And that ground up front, I hit it with some blue, the ink spot blue. I hit it with that dark green that I was using, and I hit it with some white. You don't want it to be a blacked out area. You want it to have a whole bunch of different colors. Again, it gives you depth, it gives you it gives you detail, and you can tell that the landscape's rough there in the front, that it's not just a flat black object. It's got, you know, crevices and ridges and areas that you might not be able to make out that there's, you know, brush and stuff out there, but you can tell that there's something that's not a solid object. And that's kind of what you want. And I do go back and forth a couple of times trying to put in just the right amount of highlight to that front area. Now what I'm doing right here is I'm just kind of blending that dark area back so that there's not just a straight line. I have a little blending brush, and you know, you can think of it as being, you know, that's another hill back there behind there, and you can just see the little edges of trees. It could be brush back there. It doesn't really matter. You just don't want that straight line right there. Okay, this rock is really round, and you can see up on top that it hasn't been painted. So I picked it up and I started, you know, just trying to get some paint up there on that top area. But of course, if you're going to paint it, it's going to start, you got to blend it in with the rest. And I probably should have done it to begin with, but it was so wet I couldn't really pick it up without getting paint everywhere. I think I've said this before. I try to do these videos in one sit down. I try not to do it in 2 or 3 sit downs. I wish I had more time to do it like that, but I try to do it all in one sit down. So I don't always let it dry as much as I'd like to before I work on it again. And I really played with those trees. I wanted the highlights, but I didn't want too much. And so I really did go back and forth with those trees. But again, I hope that this is one thing you take away from this video is you can't work this too much. If you get too much paint, and each time you're putting on more, it's pulling, then just stop and let it dry. And then you can go back in and you can start putting your colors back in again. The other thing is, this is a hiding rock. The first couple of times, if you do it and you don't like the way it looks, you hide that rock, and I promise you, each time that you do it, you're going to get a little bit better and a little bit better. Because it's not going to be so brand new to you. Oh, but these look so nice once they're finished. And you get them sprayed, they really look good. Well, guys, I hope you had a great holiday. I hope you enjoyed this rock, and I'll be back next week with another rock. We're going to do a bunch of summertime stuff. Thank you again for coming to my channel and watching my videos. Until next week, I will see you later. Thanks, guys.